Good morning and welcome. Today is the 11th of July, 2013. The show is coming to you from the Bedford Community Television Studios here in Bedford, New Hampshire. It's entitled The Veterans Forum. I'm the producer and host of the program. I'm Bob Stevens. For those of you who may or may not be familiar with the program, we are doing this in conjunction with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project, wherein over the years since 2000, they have been asking people such as myself in studios like this if they would help interview and record the events and the history of veterans, male and female, who fought in any of the wars at any of the services. This is to make sure that the history that was being recorded by the people who made it, and it gives you a true representation of what life was really like in their own words. Today we have another great one. I'll call Paul to begin with, ask him to introduce himself, spell his last name, and we'll take the show from there. My friend Paul, you're on, if you will. Spell your last name, your full name, where you presently live, if you will, for the record.
Well, my full name, according to Army records, is Joseph Paul Edward Bordeleau, and the last name is spelled B-O-R-D-E-L-E-A-U. French name.
No.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, I'm the 13th generation of military service because my ancestor came to Canada from France with the French Army, which was sent over by the king to protect the fur trade.
Oh, so you're a furrier by... Where do you now live? Bedford?
I live here in Bedford,
okay.
Yes, for the past 40 years.
Oh, you're new in town.
I'm new in town.
Okay,
yeah.
You'll never be an oldie around here, I guess. Now, what was your branch of service and your dates of service, if you will?
Well, I was with the Army Signal Corps, and I joined the Army Signal Corps as a reservist January 1st, 1943. And I was discharged in September, no, I arrived back in the United States in September of 45 rather. I lose track of time.
Time does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I was discharged in December of 1945.
Okay. Now, for the record, and then we'll get into something more fun, what was your rank at the time of discharge? Captain, Major, General, PFC?
Oh, no, I was just an enlisted man.
Oh.
Yeah, I was, well, I served twice, okay? World War II and also Korean War.
Fine, let's hear about them.
So at the end of World War II, I was a corporal.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of my second enlistment for the Korean War, I ended up as a sergeant.
Oh, so you took another war to get you up there, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to take it in two separate pieces, and if you can, I didn't know about the...
Yeah.
Now, to kind of make a history for yourself and for the family out there, let's go back a bit. Like, when were you born, and how was your life growing up before you went in the service, in school and that kind of stuff?
Oh, I was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, January 14, 1924, on a Monday night at 7 p.m. at home. That was common in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went to elementary school, was a French parochial school, St. Louis de France in Lowell. And I went to high school at an Irish Catholic high school for boys called Keith Academy. Graduated in 1942.
Now, did you have any brothers or sisters while you, to make your life interesting back then?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay.
Yeah, my father was a pharmacist.
Oh.
And so I was kind of protected. Whenever we needed medication, it was easy to get it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What you need it for, though?
Oh, well, one time I had a sore throat. And for coughs, which was very common, white pine and tar syrup. You don't hear about that anymore. Just the old-time druggists knew about that.
They'd be banned today, slipping you a Mickey.
Yeah.
Now, what was your life like? What did you do to keep yourself going and keep life active?
When I was growing up?
No, when you were growing up, yeah.
Oh, well, growing up.
During the Depression.
Yeah, yes, during the Depression. And I guess I was fortunate because my father, being a pharmacist, always had employment.
Job,
yeah. And he worked 72 hours a week. That was common for a pharmacist in those days because the pharmacy would be open from 8:30 in the morning to 11:30 at night. And there were only 2 pharmacists in the store. Yeah.
7 days a week, or
7 days
7
a
on,
week.
7
Yeah.
off?
The only time the store would be closed would be Christmas Day and 4th of July. The rest of the time, that store was open. Yeah. So I grew up with that kind of background, and I went to a French parochial school, and that's where I started learning how to play the piano, by the way.
Oh?
Yeah. When I was 6 years old. My mother played the piano, and she had played the piano during World War I for band dancers up in Biddeford, Maine. She came from Biddeford, Maine, yeah. And then she married my father, moved to Lowell. And then I found out that my grandfather had migrated from Canada in 1890 to come and work in the mills in Lowell.
Okay.
Yeah. So growing up, I had a cousin during the Depression. There was hardly any work for a lot of them, and this particular cousin joined the CCCs and came up here to New Hampshire to work in the parks, develop the park system.
Yeah.
And then when World War II broke out, he joined the Army and went off to war. Yeah.
Now, when you say your father was a pharmacist, was that a real drugstore back then, or did they have a soda fountain, anything like that?
Oh, yes.
Did you have to help out in the soda fountain?
No, I never worked in the store. No.
Privileged.
Yeah. And by the way, my father never went past the 8th grade.
But still, he was a registered pharmacist?
He was a registered pharmacist because he apprenticed from the age of 16 in a drugstore.
So OJT all
and
the way.
that's the way it worked in those days. And today, and he had to learn how to compound all his own drugs, make the pills, make the syrups, and so forth. And now a pharmacist goes through 5 years of college of pharmacy, and all he does is take a bottle off the shelf and 3-4 pills and put it back up there, put another pill, and they don't compound their own drugs anymore.
You better not go near any Rite Aids right now. After that, they're going to shoot you and run you out of town. But there were changes in time. No.
Yeah. And when I was in high school, I started playing with other kids playing instruments, and so I became a band director. Had my own little band, and we played for high school dances.
Really?
Yeah.
A big 6, 7
and that's
people?
how I got started. But when I was 14, I was in the 8th grade, I became a stool patrolman. Did you ever hear of those?
Oh, hell yeah, with the band,
Yeah.
red flag?
Yeah, yeah. So so in Lowell, on WLLH radio, there was a safety council, and they were in charge of all these boy patrols in all the schools throughout the city of Lowell. And so I used to listen to that program, and I noticed they had some music, local musicians. So I asked the director, who lived about 5 houses from my house, gee, could I play a solo on a piano on one of your programs? He says, well, what would you play? And there was a composer in Lowell by the name of Napoleon Gilbo. He had written the Lowell March, and I had a copy, and I had learned how to play the Lowell March.
Okay.
So at age 14, I played on WLLH. My first piece was the Lowell March. And then he had me play quite frequently to come in and play a piece of music.
So you're kind of a studio pianist after a while, then?
Yeah, that's how I started my career in music. But when I graduated from high school, that was, the war had started. And sometimes people ask me, did you know how about Pearl Harbor Day? I says, yeah. I says, I happened to be in Biddeford, Maine, because on a Sunday noontime, we turned on the radio to listen to the news, and we found out that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. But the reason I was in Biddeford, Maine, the night before, on a Saturday night, I had played in a show, a fundraiser for my uncle, who had been out of work for 5 years and had 8 children. So we decided to have a fundraising concert, and we had some singers and dancers on the show. And that's how come I was in Biddeford, Maine, so I vividly remember Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And so upon graduating from high school, do you have some questions to ask me?
No, you do it. You're just going to develop as you grow along, that's all.
Okay. So I graduated in June of 1942. Had received a scholarship to go to New England Conservatory of Music. I thought I was going that way. And my father saw an article in the paper that at the time it was known as Lowell Textile School in Lowell. He said, there's going to be a special program about radios by the Signal Corps. He says, for high school students, graduating students. He says, you know, you might think about that. He says, piano, they don't use pianos in Army bands, but he says, maybe radio, and he says, then maybe you won't have to carry a gun.
Amen. Carrying a piano's hard.
Yeah. So I enrolled in that course. It was a 6-week course about radios. And at the end of the 6 weeks, then the recruiters were there and said, gee, if you would like to continue and volunteer for the Signal Corps, the possibilities are you could become a radar operator and become a second lieutenant. Wow, I said, wow, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. So I enlisted in the reserve, and I had to start my training in Boston at Boston Trade School the 1st of January, 1943. And this was like, well, they had segments to the course about radio, the workings of the radio, how to repair radios, how to maintain radios, how to talk on the radio, the whole avenue of.
So you became well immersed in the whole programming. Okay.
Yes, and they had segments, and you could do the segments at your own pace, but there was a deadline. And if by the deadline you didn't meet the expectations of the instructors, out you went into the infantry. Automatically.
That's a hell of an inducement right there.
Yeah. So I went through that whole course of 4 months. At the end of 4 months, that was the end of that particular. Incidentally, we went to school 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. And at the Boston Trade School, they were using that school, and they had, regular school students. So our shift was from 11 at night to 7 in the morning.
So you didn't interfere with anybody?
Yeah.
Now, where'd you bill? How'd they bill at you? Where'd you live? How'd you live?
I lived at the YMCA in Boston.
Okay, now was that on the government or out of your own pocket?
No, this was all government paid. And we had subsistence also.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was that was another enticement to be in it. Nothing that you'd get rich with, but
kept you out of trouble.
Everything was paid for. After I finished at Boston Trade School, then they said, oh, you qualify to go to Northeastern University to continue your studies towards being a radar operator.
Radar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which was brand new.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, nobody knew too much about it. Again, at this school, went there from May through the end of August. Again, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. It was math, science, and so forth. We had none of the liberal studies to do. It was strictly business.
Business oriented.
Yeah, business oriented. And but the whole concept was the same as an electrical engineer 4-year degree, except they couldn't give us the degree because we didn't do all the liberal art courses.
Yeah, basket weaving 1 and 2.
Yeah. So when I finished that, they said, okay, now you're ready for active duty. So I went off to Camp Crowder, Missouri, which was a single corps camp for basic training. So that was 13 weeks of basic training. Okay?
I'm with you.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Let me kind of interrupt a second. This is when you're really getting into the Army.
Yeah, I was in the Army then.
You're now assigned. What was your trip like coming down on the train?
Well, that was a new experience. Of course, I had been going on trains since I was a little kid, going from Lowell to Biddeford, Maine, to visit my grandparents.
Okay, so you're highly experienced then.
But I had never been on a Pullman.
Okay, let's talk about the Pullmans with the soot and the clean blankets and all that.
Yeah, and the dining car.
All right.
Yeah. So, but I vividly remember going across the Mississippi River in St. Louis, and the first thing I saw on the western side of Mississippi River was all these shacks along the river where the colored people lived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was an eye-opener for me coming from the eastern industrial city of Lowell. And then we went way out in the Ozarks, where Camp Crowder was located, where they trained us. Well, I did my basic training, 13 weeks, and I was just a buck private at that point. We finished the course, and they get us together. We're sorry, but the quota for radar is all filled up.
After spending all that time in it?
Yeah. But we'll give you options. Here's a list of what you can elect to do. So I looked at all this, and I says, oh my gosh, I saw one, it said telephone installation and maintenance. Something struck in my mind. Well, after the war, maybe I can get a job with AT&T.
Yeah, okay.
So I chose installation and maintenance. Well, the course was not given at Camp Crowder. Had to travel to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, the headquarters of the Army Signal Corps. And so back on the train, I went to Fort Monmouth, and I was there from from September to December of 43. Again, we could do the course at our own pace. Well, I finished the course early, and they said, well, we don't know what to do with you now. We don't know what kind of an assignment to give you. Well, let's do this. Why don't you go and spend your time at the officer's repair shop, and you can repair all the equipment that the officers break down.
Oh.
Yeah, so, it was
Somebody had to do it.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And then comes December, and they said, we finally have an assignment for you. Yeah, better pack up your bags and get ready, because you're going to the 246 Signal Operation Company. I had no idea in the world what that was all about.
Was. Amen.
Yeah.
But you're well qualified.
But I was qualified as installation and maintenance. So I found out when I arrived at, was it Camp Banks, I guess, And,
Where's that?
that's in New Jersey, not far from Fort Monmouth, but it's on the shore banks. But it was just to get the troops together.
Okay, marshalling point.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so when I came in, they said, "Oh, we're so glad to see you." I says, "Why?" "Well, now we're a full complement and we can go
Overseas.
overseas." So we were there about 2 weeks getting our stuff all together and learning the routines of. This particular company had 300 men, one of the largest companies in the whole United States Army. And there were only two outfits like ours, the 246 and the 248. And the 248 was sent to the Pacific Theater, and the 246 was sent to Europe. And so from Camp Shanks, we went up to Camp Shanks, up the Hudson River, for marshalling again and getting ready to go on a boat. And we were only there 2 weeks, and we got on a little boat, and there was only about 900 men on the boat.
What kind was it? Commandeered boat, an old commercial?
I don't
Passenger
remember,
boat?
but it was a small boat, and we joined a convoy.
Okay.
And I remember going by the Statue of Liberty and waving, "Goodbye, girl, goodbye."
She way back?
And and then it took us 2 weeks to cross the Atlantic.
Wow.
Yeah, in a convoy.
Zigzag.
Zigzag, yeah. We went all the way down to Trinidad and back up again, and the west coast of Africa to Cardiff, Wales is where we landed.
That's kind of a
Yeah, on the southern coast of England.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little train that took us to Kidderminster, which is outside of Birmingham, England. And previous to our arrival, they had set up a medical tent as a hospital, so we were using that for our billets while we were waiting for further assignment. And we were assigned to the 8th Air Force there. And then all of a sudden we got, I said, "Well, we're sending you down to Bristol to 1st Army headquarters." Well, got down there, and they said to me, "Joe," they called me Joe then.
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, yeah.
Hey. I bought one of your dolls.
And they said, "We would like you to become a telephone operator here in Bristol." I said, "I don't know anything about operating a switchboard. I know how to repair it." But they said, "We'll teach you."
Okay.
And that's what they did. We used a commercial switchboard in a telephone company in Bristol. And they taught me all about the switchboard. And so we were in preparation from January until June. So this was about April, I guess, we went down to Bristol. And so what transpired, all of a sudden, somebody said, "Hey, you play the piano?" I says, "Yeah." "Oh, we'd like you to come and play for the officers at the Officers Club on Saturday night."
Okay, Brownie.
So there used to be an MP in the Jeep that would pick me up at the headquarters, our company headquarters, take me to the Officers Club, and they'd play the piano for a couple hours at the Officers Club. Well, that was pretty good duty.
Now, did you help them get rid of some of the libation? Or shouldn't I ask?
Well, they would send the drinks up. They'd be lined up on the piano.
It was everything was Swanee River.
Yeah. And one particular week, they said, "Well, I don't think we'll need you next week." Okay. Halfway through the week, they said, "Oh, we changed our mind. Well, you better come back." So I went back, and the following week they said, "No, it's next week. We don't need you." And the first thing I knew, I had orders to go on detached service. 12 men, 1 officer, and a vehicle with a switchboard. And we
you were
went
the
down
operator.
to Southampton
Uh-huh.
from Bristol. We were there overnight, and the next day we were on a boat. And we joined the Armada, I guess you'd call it. And
The Armada, yeah.
yeah,
This was June 5th you're talking about.
yeah,
I remember that.
yeah. And we went across the channel, and we arrived at Omaha Beach. And I had never seen so many boats in my life. There was about 5,000.
Yeah.
And
All the
it was
horizon.
just amazing. It was just amazing. And June 5th, the Germans started attacking. And we were supposed to land June 6th. However, they had not secured the beach for us, so we had to wait. And then we got orders, well, maybe we'll try Utah Beach. So they sent our boat to Utah Beach. And when we got there, they says, nope, we need you at Omaha Beach. So we went back
again.
Went back to Omaha Beach, yeah. And all this time, we could see the big battleships ahead of us, and they were lobbying the shells on shore, but the Germans were doing the same thing to us from the bunkers they had. Yeah? And the only way they could stop the Germans from using the Rangers had to go up and climb. I think that's well documented
cliffs, yeah.
about going up that steep cliff and actually killing the operators right there inside the bunkers. That was the only way they could.
But it was permanent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, on the beach, we came in. Oh, by the way, while waiting, you're looking at, and as we approached the beach, we'd see these ships that had the ladders on each side for the infantry to walk down.
Yeah.
And many times I saw these ladders being full of our American soldiers, and the Germans would open up on them, and they go right in the water. I mean, so emotional.
I know. Now, how did you guys go as a unit? Just special passage all the way?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were designated to put up the first switchboard on the continent for General Bradley. So we finally got up to the shore, and we were able to drive a vehicle. And on the beach, here's the beach, let's say, and here's the hill.
Yeah.
And there was one road that went up the hill. And I remember we went up that hill, and at the top of the hill, they had put a big tent for medical hospital. And so we went by there. Now, the officer, a second lieutenant, had a map, and he said, we have to go to put up the switchboard. This is my directions.
Okay.
We're going down the road, and all of a sudden, we got stopped by Rangers. And they said, where are you guys going? Well, we were so proud to say, we're going to put up the switchboard for General Bradley.
No. Whoops.
And the ranger says, I don't think so. He says, the Krauts, that's what they call the German soldiers, the Krauts are only 75 yards down the road. Hey, you've never saw a vehicle turn around so fast.
New York, too.
Okay, so we're coming back, and the officer turns around to me and he says, Paul, he says, it's all up to you now. I said, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, he says, you're the only one who can talk French.
Oh.
You've got to find us a place to hide our equipment and start operating. Hey, 20-year-old kid, what do I know, right?
But you could do it.
So we went down the road, and all of a sudden my officer said, "Hey, look at that building." That turned out to be a French bakery. He says, "I noticed they have an attic over the first floor." He says, "Go find out if we can use that." So I was given the job of going and talking to those people, French people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were so thrilled to see an American soldier that could speak French. I could have had anything, even the girls.
Maybe. Maybe.
And so, they said, "Yes, we'll help you. We'll help you." And we set up our first switchboard in the attic over a French bakery for camouflage. As soon as we had that done, we had to go in their backyard and dig foxholes, and we got permission from the people for doing that.
Did they still stay in the house?
We didn't stay in the house.
No, but did they stay in their home?
Oh, yes, yes.
They didn't then?
No, no. As we were traveling from the beach, I saw a lot of French people evacuating with their wagons.
Yeah, anything you could carry.
Yeah, yeah. But also, what I saw as we went down certain roads, there would be German soldiers lying down, American soldiers lying down. I saw where parachuters didn't make it. They get stuck in trees, dead cows, dead pigs.
And horses.
And horses, yeah. So, I saw all that, what happened to that big bombardment to secure our position at Omaha Beach.
Now, question, technically, in your unit, you must have had 2 or 3 trucks or 6-bys up, but did you have some kind of a generator to give you your power and so forth? How did you handle that?
Yeah, yeah, we had a generator.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were the operator, but you had some technicians to set that up for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Little mind, got to figure it out sometimes.
Yeah. There were 6 of us out of 12. There was telephone operators because we took turns. And even at night, you had a night shift.
Yeah, keep it in hand.
And then we had some technicians to hook up all the lines to the switchboard. We didn't have to do that. So, and then we had supplies. One of our fellows had to go out and get supplies, food, K-rations.
With the bakery downstairs, you're eating K-rations? Come on now. Come on. I'm old, but I'm not that adult. Come on.
Yeah, we had access. Yeah, they were very. And what we'd do, we'd exchange the K-rations for bakery goods.
I know.
Yeah.
That's called balance of trade.
And I didn't smoke, so I exchanged my cigarettes for food.
Oh, good for you.
Or wine. Or something else that they provided us, what was called Calvados.
Qu'est-ce que c'est Calvados?
It's liquor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Being pure, I would not know.
Yeah, it's straight liquor, let me tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long you were there?
We were there about 6 weeks.
And then you started moving up?
Then came the Battle of St. Lo.
Okay.
And at the Battle of St. Lo, one night, we're looking over about 7 o'clock at night, and we see these waves of airplanes flying over us. Where are they going? What are they doing? And the next day, they said, well, they attacked St. Lo. And they, as the Germans would say, kaputt.
Kaputt, yes.
Yeah. And just a few days after the all that bombardment, they moved us down to St. Lo. And there we were billeted in bombed out seminary. And we put up our equipment in the seminary and put up our sleeping bags in the seminary, not in the pup tent anymore.
Oh, dry up and off the ground.
Yeah. And we were there for, I forget how many weeks, not too long, because the Army kept moving forward. And, another thing about headquarters, Army headquarters, we were called Army Forward. And the rest of the Army and the rest of my outfit stayed in England with 1st Army Rear.
Oh, so you weren't a rear ender then, you were a forward.
We were forward, yeah, way forward. And, but all through all of this, all I was given was a carbine. And that's all we
No
operators
sidearms?
had. No sidearm, carbine.
Yeah, I know, I got one.
Yeah. But I never got to fire it.
Oh?
Yeah. Except one of our boys one night, when we were still on near the beach, he was on guard duty, because we had to do guard duty
yeah.
besides that. And all of a sudden he heard some strange noises. Who goes there? Who goes there? And no answer, just strange noises. So he fired his carbine. And it turned out to be a Lister bag, and the water started
Crashing. Yeah, but it'd be surprised at night that you see an awful lot of stuff coming at you. You don't know.
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Oh, and at 11 o'clock every night on the beach, the Germans would send a reconnaissance plane, and we could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it remained light until 11 o'clock at that section of France in Normandy. Yeah, it wouldn't get dark until after 11 o'clock. So that was another reason they chose that time of year. Yeah. Now, I mentioned that, they said they didn't want me for that week.
Mm-hmm.
That was a week before. Originally, that was the week that was selected for the invasion.
But they had the bad weather.
They had the bad weather, so they postponed it a week. Yeah, and also had a lot of it had to do with the tides, when the tides would roll in, as to when we would be able to get on the
right
beach.
there,
Yeah. And
you're moving forward now. When did you leave Bradley and become part of Patton's army?
oh, that was later.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, because from St. Lo, we went all the way to Chartres, France. Chartres?
Go ahead. This is your country.
Okay. And from Chartres, we went up to Versailles at the liberation of Paris. And in Versailles, we were on the grounds of the Rothschilds' estate.
Rough duty.
Not really, not with the Rothschilds. And so at the liberation of Paris, I was lucky. I got to go under the Eiffel Tower.
How many days you have? A week? 4 days?
Yeah, just about that, I guess. No more than 2 weeks, because I got orders to be sent to General Patton. And so little did I know what was in store for me, but I was a detachment. In our company, by the way, we had telephone operators, telephone installation maintenance, radio platoon, code platoon, teletype platoon, headquarters platoon, messenger platoon. That was all the jeeps that they used to carry.
Motorbikes and jeeps.
Yeah. So, and everybody was always on detached service. From the time that I left the company in Bristol, England, we never got back together as a company until after the war, when we regroup in Reims, France, after the war. Everybody, so it was a very little knit group of telephone operators.
Yeah.
You know.
But you knew each other, how to work with each other too.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
important
yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. And the work order was like this: from 7 to 12, 5 hours on the switchboard, and then you had 5 hours off. Another crew came in, and then we went back on from 5 to 10 at night. And then another crew, a third crew, came on duty from 10 at night till 7 in the morning. Yeah.
That was a long shift then.
Yeah, that was a long shift, but there was not much telephone conversations going on during the night. But you had to stay awake.
Mm-hmm. You had to be manned.
Yeah, and but about 5 o'clock in the morning, our duty was to check all the lines, the trunk lines, to make sure we had connection, like with the 8th Air Force and the Armored Divisions. We had to maintain all those lines open for the general and other officers, of course.
Did the general ever come by, and do you ever get to see him, meet him?
Oh, we'd see him, drive by. Not so much Bradley, but Patton. We saw him a lot, driving by, headquarters, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, being in that select detachment, did you have any kind of special privileges, or be able to work deals on getting good food, good quarters, and so on? That sometimes happened.
Oh, yes. Not so much until we got to, now, when I was sent with General Patton, by then we had 2 big vans, and each van had 3 big 100-line switchboards, so we had 300 lines.
Wow.
And we had 3 operators working at the same time. And when General Patton made his mad dash across France, he was at the head. Do you know why he was always up front?
No, but you tell me.
Okay. Well, his theory was, if I'm here and I want to push the troops forward, what happens? The troops don't move forward. But if I'm up front and I pull, those troops are going to follow.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
That was his theory.
Okay.
So that's why we counted one time. He had 21 different vehicles at his disposal, all kinds of Army vehicles. Yeah.
He also had a couple of.
So we never knew whether he was going to be on a 6x6 or in a Jeep or a helicopter or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. We all admired him as soldiers, and he admired us also. And one of his last comments was, "I'm wearing a lot of ribbons, but you guys are the ones that earned them.
Yeah.
I'm just showing them off so people will know what you people did."
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the kind of a man he was. He always looked out for his troops, much more than Bradley did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he and Bradley have
Yeah.
being like in Mountbatten?
Yeah.
You don't mention the same breath.
Yeah. So we joined Patton in Paris, and he made the mad dash across France. Okay. And I was in that unit. And I mentioned we had 2 vans. Well, we set up one van here. The other van went ahead and set up.
Hopscotch.
And then we took this van and moved it up. Okay, so we had 3 complete 300-line installations in 24 hours. Amazing feat, amazing feat. And we ended up in Etaine, France, and he kept on going 35 miles inside of Germany.
You know, that's inside the Red Ball Express to keep the gas going forward.
So I was on the switchboard, and I saw the red light coming. We had only one red light.
Red light means what? Danger or?
No, the
power?
red light meant that's Patton's telephone,
Oh, private line.
private line. And so I had to put on connecting Eisenhower to Patton. Now, we were under strict rules never to listen to the
yeah.
conversation.
I know.
I couldn't help but leaving the line open for myself. And I heard Eisenhower say, "Come back, you fool." And Patton's retort was, "Hey, we've got him on the run, let's keep him on the run." And Eisenhower says, "I cannot open the flanks, and I cannot send you all the supplies that you need
To support you.
to support you." Yeah, so Patton had to come back. And he went into Nancy, France. And we were in Nancy, France from September to December until the Battle of the Bulge.
Mm.
And we were just there waiting, and getting the supplies to come up, because that was quite a way from the beach to
Oh, I
Nancy,
know.
France, yeah, and the Alsace-Lorraine section. So there we had a lot of time on our hands when we were not operating, as I said, about the shifts. So there was a USO building, and I started
Oh.
going to the USO building and playing the piano, yeah, and met French girls and French guys also. And I remember one guy I was talking with him one night, and he says, "Oh yeah," he says, "I was with the Resistance." And he says, "It was nothing for us. A bunch of boys," says, we try to find a German, and he says, "We just chop them up and throw them in the river."
Oh,
Yeah, this is how cruel war can be.
oh, I know.
Yeah. And so how are we doing on time here?
Oh, we
What
get
is it?
11
Yeah.
minutes down.
Yeah.
I'll give you 5 more.
Okay, so then from Nancy, I was there for Christmas Day. And I had met this girl at the USO, and she says, "My father, who owned a fire extinguishing company in Nancy, also a plant in Paris," she says, "My father would like to invite you and one of your officers for Christmas dinner.
Ooh.
Do you think you would be able to do that?" So I went to my officer and I said, "Hey, you want a nice Christmas dinner at our French house?"
Yeah.
He says, "What?" So I explained to him what it was. He says, "Okay," so both of us went there. And the father was so happy to see us that he went down the cellar and brought back a bottle of champagne. He opened it up for us, and the cork said 1876.
Whoa.
He said, "We've been saving this for a very, very special
And
day."
this is it.
And this is it, yeah. And I have a lot of stories like that, but to go forward, right after Christmas was the Battle of the Bulge, and we moved up to Luxembourg. And from Luxembourg, we went to Trier, Germany, and from Trier to Frankfurt am Main, because there's 2 Frankfurts in Germany on different rivers.
Oh.
And the Main River is where there was, I'm digressing here. From Frankfurt, we went to Erlangen, Germany, and we stayed in former SS barracks for a couple of weeks. And from Erlangen, we went down to Nuremberg. I got to sit in Hitler's box at the theater. That the roof was bombed out, but they brought in a USO show. I got to see a USO show. And from Nuremberg, then we went down to Munich. And while we were in Munich, only there about 3 weeks, we were on our way to Prague when the war ended. And then they said, "Well, we don't need you guys anymore."
Goodbye.
because, you know, a detached service.
Yeah.
And the other regular guys took over. And so they sent us to Reims, France, to bring back the whole company together. And they said, well, now we're going to send you to Japan. Oh, okay. And so we went down to Marseille. All our equipment got loaded on a boat with one officer to go through the Suez Canal and they said, well, you guys will follow, but we need the supplies ahead of time. And, okay, so we're waiting in Marseille, and war in Japan was over.
Thank goodness.
And so instead of, they said, we're going to send you to the States for furlough, and after the furlough, then you'll go to Japan. Well, a boat landed in Boston. I went to Fort Devens. My mother and father picked me up at Fort Devens, which was not too far from Lowell. And well, 30-day furlough. And then they said, well, I'll tell you what, you have too many points. You're due for a discharge, but we can't discharge you, we can't do that. So take another 20 days. So I got another 20-day furlough, all paid. And just before the end of that 20 days, I was at Boston Symphony listening to a concert, and I got an attack of appendicitis. And so I went straight to Fort Devens Hospital. They operated on me. And then 2 weeks later, they says, okay, now you'll be discharged.
Good.
Yeah. So I was discharged in December of '45, in time for Christmas.
Merry Christmas and welcome
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
Now, when you got home, did you join anything like take advantage of GI Bill? Or go
Oh, yes, yeah. I went to the conservatory.
Okay.
Because I already had a scholarship.
Oh.
So I went to the conservatory, and they said, well, why don't we use up your GI Bill first, and then you'll have the scholarship when you need it. Yeah. So, I graduated from New England Conservatory in 1953. Now, think about this. I matriculated in '46, but I didn't graduate till '53.
Well, some people are slow.
It wasn't that. I got recalled for Korean War.
No.
Yeah. So 50 and 51, I was with the 11th Airborne Division Band. I got in a band finally.
Well, you did it. That's the important thing. Now,
Yeah.
we've got to kind of wrap it up, but
Yeah.
based upon what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've done, has your experience been positive or negative with respect to the military?
Positive. One thing that I felt at one time, gee, I think that every boy should have at least 1 year experience.
Just boys?
Yeah, at that time, yeah. Because the girls would become a whack, or if she was in the Navy, would become a wave.
Yeah.
The wife that I married had been a wave. She was a link trainer operator down at Corpus Christi, Texas, for the Navy. Yeah, and she served 3 years in the service. Yeah.
And since then, though, right now, in your retirement time, you're still teaching and going around giving all kinds of good music.
I'm not retired, just tired. No.
Or retarded.
Or retarded, yeah. That's a better word. Yeah. No, I'm still teaching piano and music, a different kind, and so forth. And also I do a lot of playing. And I'm a church organist, so presently I'm on the substitute list. And so every now and then I get a call from somebody that wants a vacation. So but presently, this is, what's the day today?
11th.
Of July 2013. And presently, I play every Wednesday night at the Derry Christian Science Church.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm active as ever and composing music and writing articles and so forth.
Just to keep
in
busy.
music. Yeah.
2 words. Thank you, my friend.
Oh.
It's been fun, and we've gone through an hour real quick.
Yeah.
We're coming back because there's a lot more that can be back in there. Okay? Fair enough?
Yeah, sure.
We have to say that's a wrap, folks. But as again, John, or Paul, as we know him around here, is one heck of a nice guy. Some of the stories we've told you are just the tops of some of the things he's done. But to you guys and gals out there right now who have served and have a story that you might want to share or can share, please come and see us. We will make sure that you get full treatment, the best we can give you, but more important, it serves 2 purposes. It's probably for you older guys in World War II, Korea, and Nam right now, it'll be one of the best legacies that you can give your family to answer the question, hey, Dad or Grandpa, whatever, what did you do in the war? Because so many teams, you look at, I have a bad habit now, and it bugs me, but I do it. Every day I check the newspapers and see the little stars and the flags over the obituary columns. It says, quote, he or she was in the Army, was in the Navy, served with the Marines. That doesn't say a darn thing about what he did, how it affected him, how it affected his family, his life, his friends, his future. And this is a chance to get some of that stuff recorded for yourself and for your kids and your grandkids. More important, and this is gospel. I've had a lot of guys and been at almost 100 interviews now. When it's over, they've said, whew, I'm glad I had that interview. I got rid of that stuff I've been carrying for one hell of a long time. Okay? Again, I can't promise you anything, but we'll do the best we can. Get a hold of me. The name is Bob Stevens. You'll see it in the back of the program, how to get here, and we welcome you when we need you. Stay healthy, and thanks for listening.